Hello, Podfam, and hello, Rachel. How are you today?
I am doing good, Laura. I went to the osteopath this evening and I feel like kind of a noodle now.
Amazing.
So it's great. It's
Amazing.
it's awesome. Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
I've never really cuz like osteopaths are weird cuz they're like kind of a mix between like chiropractor and massage.
Yeah.
But it was just in like my upper back. So basically I had like a really intense massage just on like my shoulders and stuff. And I was just like, wow, my shoulders are resting where they're supposed to after. And I was just like, this is a shocking experience. So I am content. But how are you?
I'm doing good as well. I was just out for a nice long walk. We had a bit of a rainstorm and then it got very sunny and humid. So it was lovely out. Very nice.
Lovely.
Yes. Yes.
A little walk through the park?
Little walk through the park. It was lovely.
Good. Well, what are you having to drink this evening?
Today I pulled out my rose petal and hip tea.
Oh, you haven't
Yeah.
had that in a
I
while.
didn't think so, and I wanted something that just, like, didn't have any caffeine in it. I've had enough coffee
Mm-hmm.
today, and this one
Mm-hmm.
is just always so calming that, yeah, it jumped out off the shelf today. What are you having,
Love
though?
that. I am having some peppermint tea.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been really on the peppermint tea train lately, but you know what? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
And you know what? For a hot tea, that one is always really refreshing.
It is. So, shall we get into it?
Yes, what are we gonna be talking about today?
We are going to be, and I don't know if this is going to be spicy or not, but we are talking about the tendency that we as humans have to hide behind a keyboard.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. So, have fun, everyone. It's going to
Yeah,
be a good time.
yeah, I
So,
I don't even know what to think sometimes because even when I was
yes.
kinda just like, "Okay, what's, like, the thought out there?" Any research behind this, and
Mm-hmm.
I came across some very, like, disturbing and strange articles on the flip side of this, and I was just
Ooh.
like, "I was not expecting to find this." Um,
Oh, like
okay,
what?
so the strange article I found, it was on a very questionable website as well, just based on, like, the other titles of the articles, and I can tell this is, like, a community where people, um I don't think they're professionals in any sense, they just kinda speak their
Okay.
mind. And there were some
Fair
questionable
enough.
things on there. But anyway, I read through this article. I don't know if like it went over my head or like I missed the point, but it just came off really strange. And the name of the article was Why Hiding Behind the Keyboard Isn't a Sign of Cowardice.
Oh, I saw
Did
that
you
link.
see this?
I didn't read it. I didn't
Okay.
read it, but I was just like, I don't know if I want to venture down
Okay.
that road
Well,
tonight.
let me just I just pulled a couple select things from there because when I'm reading the article and I'm just like, this was written by a Karen. It's definitely written by a Karen. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
be
We love those.
yeah, so the subtitle of this article was, "Until we can beam around, we have no choice." And I was like, "What?
Pardon?
What?"
Like, isn't beam around like
"Until I can telepathically
sir?
appear in front of you to say awful
Oh,
things to you, I can only use a keyboard." That is essentially what this article was saying, and,
wow.
I kinda understood what they were trying to say, I think. I don't know, I have no idea. I
Yeah.
could have totally missed the whole point, and I kinda feel like I did, um, because they were talking about, like, keyboard and communicating through, like, computers and the internet is our best form
Okay.
of connecting with other people in this day and age, like, for people who you can't
Yes.
reach, right?
Yes.
So, I understand that, but I think it was just like this person had they're definitely someone who is very outspoken. It even said that in the article. They're like, "I'll tell it to your face anyway." And I was like, "Okay, calm down. You have a lot of negative energy. We don't need that." Um,
Please turn that away from me.
yeah, but
Thank you.
the point was, it was like, you know, people just get upset and then they say that like we're just cowards behind a keyboard, and I'm like, well, maybe you're being an asshole, you know? That's kind of
Yeah,
what it sounds like.
I think like listening to that, the the foundation of what they're saying, I understand it,
Yes.
But it's like, just because you're upset and this is a way for you to express something to somebody that, maybe lives on the other side of the world, doesn't mean that you have to be an asshole.
Yes, and I'd love to just
And
read a little paragraph because it fits into
okay.
so well what you're just about to say here. So, the quote unquote bully or quote unquote troll doesn't have the recipient's phone number to privately text messages. He or she certainly doesn't have their email or home address. The keyboard is the only way to communicate. It's not about cowardice,
All right.
it's about limited communication methods.
Would they show up to their house and say those things and give them the option?
This person apparently would. But like, so I was just like, okay, I understand that, like, for people to have debates, like, I am not against debates. That is fine.
No.
But there are people out there who are actually just mean and assholes.
Yes.
I just kind of was a little strange that they're like the quote unquote bully and troll. And I was just like, so obviously you've been called a bully in your life.
Maybe we should reflect on that a little first.
Completely disregards what other people's perception of them is, and it's just like, this is the only way I can fucking tell you off. And I'm like,
solid.
You need to check some questionable choices in your life. I'm sorry.
It's just like, if that's the way that you're telling people off, maybe we need to take a step back.
Yes,
reflect. Think about some things, because there's a difference between being like, I believe that this is incorrect because of these reasons, and like online cyberbullying.
Yeah, which it didn't even address for like the length of the article that it was. It was really just a rant on how people should be allowed to say mean things to other people who they don't know
on the
internet. That's essentially what I got from the article. Wishing that person well, but like, if you're constantly getting into fights with people, there's a common denominator. That's all I'm going to say about that.
And that's the tea.
Thanks for the episode, guys.
All right, we're signing off. Live like tea.
Live like tea.
So I actually found a term for this, what we're talking about today, and I got really excited. And they call it the online disinhibition effect. So this basically refers to the general lack of restraint that humans feel when they are communicating online versus in person. So it can be classified as benign online disinhibition or toxic online disinhibition, which is what we were kind of just talking about there. So it's interesting because it can be good and bad, because on the good side, like Tumblr, for example, when I was in high school and I was having some difficulty with bullies and stuff, I turned to Tumblr and I had a blog on there where I was like in the community of, like, I was kind of in like the book community before Instagram and all of that took off. And, it was a place for me where I was anonymous and I could like fully express myself.
I think it's beautiful. Like the communities that people can connect with, that is just so amazing. Like, it's just a whole new form of people all around the world being able to share their stories in a relatively safe place. And, it's kind of that safer way of, what, in my real, like, everyday life, I'm too afraid to come out and say I'm this. But to these group of people who I relate to, I feel safe, and that gives me comfort. Like that I think is great. Like if that's like the good kind of hiding behind a keyboard, because I think through that, then you do get the courage to say things in your real life.
Exactly, 100%. So like it gives you a place to go to really express yourself with your interests in a place where you feel safe. But, if you need to reach out for help or something, people are often more willing to do it when they feel that sense of anonymousness. So for instance, I think we've talked about it a couple times, but I think BetterHelp gives the option to like text with a counselor.
Yeah.
If you feel more comfortable doing this, then you can do it this way. So I think that's great. And that's like the more benign side of this. And then we get into the toxic side, which is when people become cruel and hostile, and they use that anonymousness really to bully people, threaten people, etc. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting that there's like a term for it. I got very excited about that.
Yeah, and that's just how developed our society is now getting
Mm-hmm.
in technology. That, we didn't have terms for this when we were growing up as kids.
No, we just got people just got bullied on MSN. But I think the one thing, and there's couple things that tie into this theory per se, and one of them is being the communication when you do it online isn't immediate in the way that in-person communication is. So, for instance, I thought like on the good side, it's kind of funny where it's just like, if you write a message, I've done this many times, but you can express your feelings to like your crush or something, and then you can turn off your phone and throw it away, right?
Yeah.
But on the more inflammatory side, say it's like YouTube comments or something, you can really troll that person and just turn off your computer. You don't have to suffer the consequences that you do if I walked up to you and said, I don't you have ugly pants.
I'm wearing my
Like
Lululemon pants. Rachel, you have the exact same pants as me. Come on now.
I couldn't think of another example. I
Quit
love those
hating on my
pants.
pants.
But you know what I
I
mean.
do.
So
Yeah.
say I said that to somebody through their YouTube comments and I could just turn off my computer to not see how they responded. But if I say it to them in person, they're going to be like, "Hey, I've got some great pants. Screw you."
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know?
And like the key thing that you're saying there is like there's no accountability or responsibility for your
No.
actions, right? Like they can't
Mhm.
trace you down, right? Like what are people gonna do? They're like, wow, that person's a jerk. Didn't like my pants.
Mhm. Yeah, like I remember I think in the Tumblr space they had this really awful looking back on it thing now where you could inbox people, like you could send them little Tumblr emails,
Mhm.
and you had the option to send it anonymously.
Mm.
So there wasn't any traceability for who sent you that message, and like people would say some wild things. So
Oh,
I've heard.
for sure. Well, and
Like,
and that's where like being anonymous is like a blessing and a curse in the
mhm.
world because for, what we were saying earlier, if someone doesn't feel safe, they don't want their identity known, but they want to share a story, that's where it's
Yeah.
great. But then there's other times where people are like, I can run wild, say whatever I
Yes.
want, and no one's ever going to know. Like
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
dishonesty on that side.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's precipitated almost with just the lack of empathy that is experienced when you don't have to be looking at that other person. It's like like you're just looking at words. Or if people are feeling negative about something or they feel like they need to express themselves negatively, they're not actually looking at that person. So there's nothing to feel empathy towards.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so easy if you're not looking someone in the eye.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, going back to where hiding behind the keyboard is good, it gives you courage in a
Mhm.
way, and then going back to the bad side, it gives you courage. Um, and I feel like we talk about this a lot where text and writing is very much misconstrued because we do lose the emotion of talking, of looking at someone, of hearing their voice and the tone of their voice.
Mhm.
So I think that's just like how we've become so detached from understanding how impactful our words are to people.
Yeah. Mhm.
And one thing that's coming up for me is when you were talking about, I believe this was in our benefits, pros and cons of working from home or working from the office, and you were talking
Yes.
about, you just became that little icon on the
Mhm.
screen and you noticed a major difference in how people were communicating with you
Yeah,
and you were treated less and less like a real person.
for sure. And I think it's an interesting thing because when we look at the workspace, usually like it's through Slack messages or GChat or something where it really is like that communication just with text,
Yeah.
right? But you also see it so much too with more the influencer space. Like it does happen a bit to like celebrities, but more with YouTubers and like people on Instagram and such,
Mhm.
where they've presented themselves almost as a like content creator, but they are what they've created as a form of
Yeah.
entertainment. That barrier of this is a person that I'm looking at, it disappears like you're watching a movie, right?
Yeah.
So people just air out any little thing that they comes to mind in the negative, not acknowledging that that's an actual real person on the other side who is reading these cruel messages about themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of people will say, like, okay, celebrities, YouTubers, Instagrammers, influencers of any kind, they're choosing this life, right? And so
Yeah.
they're allowed to be our target. And I just don't understand because, like,
I
you
don't
have
agree with
every right
that.
not to like someone and what they
Yeah.
do. Okay. Like,
Mhm.
there are people I don't like, and I'm sure there are people who don't like me. That's fine. I don't care.
Mhm.
They're entitled to that opinion. But like it doesn't mean we need to actively go out and make sure they know we don't like them. You know? Like that's just
Yeah.
who would do that in a real day? Like you're gonna walk up to some person and be like, "Hey, I hate you." You know, like
Yeah.
that's
I
ridiculous.
mean,
It's ridiculous.
yeah, like, let's look at an example of, like, a corporate office, right? We're sending emails to people outside of the company who we kind of have, like, a working relationship with. Maybe that person doesn't like us, but they're not just gonna be like, "Oh, I don't like you, but you've chosen to be in this job, so I'm gonna tell you you suck."
Yeah.
You know? So why is it somebody choosing to be in a content creation space, why are they then why is it then given permission to ridicule them? Like, it's not an argument that I think makes sense.
Yeah, and I know there's gonna be people who say like, "Well, no, there's, like, people we really shouldn't like in the world," and granted, with things going on right now, there are people that we
Yes,
should not like. And
100%.
the thing I'm just gonna focus a little bit more on the social media side with those influencers just because I feel like that is something that is now very much in our lives because, we're on Instagram, Facebook. Um, that's content that's now our new version of television, and it's more
Yep.
of a personal relationship than it was when we only had TV.
Yes.
And with that, it's what people don't understand is to the algorithms and the influencers. Um, it's that like common saying, all publicity is good publicity,
Yep.
right? Because what
Mhm.
this stuff feeds off of is how much traffic it's being generated, how much are people talking about it.
Yeah.
The algorithm doesn't care whether you're saying good or bad things. So,
Mhm.
really, if there's someone you don't like and, it's just it's an influencer, you just can't stand them. That's the example I'm going with because I know a lot of people could really spin that out of context. So that I'm going with just like an influencer, you're not a fan. Okay. They're
Mhm.
a person, they're not harming anyone. That's why I'm just putting the caveat out here. Like they're just they're just a person. You don't like their personality. Who cares? And
Yeah.
the thing is, by you going online and talking all this shit about them, you are now generating more traffic towards them because people are going to see, like, oh, that person's like saying this person's crazy. I want to go see how
Mhm.
crazy. You just drove those people to that influencer, right?
Mhm.
And now they're getting more ad revenue.
Yep.
So that's where I'm just like, okay, if you really want to make a difference and, you know, get this person to have less influence,
Mhm.
ignore them, right? Like
Just unfollow them.
unfollow them, do not support them, don't talk about them because
Do not comment on every post that they
exactly,
put
because
out.
for the people who are really big, like really big influencers, they don't care whether you like them or not. They're going to be like, "Hey, I got another million views on my video."
Mhm.
Right? Like
Mhm.
they don't care that 20,000 of those are people that absolutely hate them.
Mhm.
It's all the same to them at the end of the day when it comes down to dollars and cents. So I feel like that's just
Mhm.
one thing to keep in the back of your mind. And for the people who like, really attack them, they are still people at the end of the day. And
Yes.
no one is perfect. Okay. I see this a lot with some of the influencers I follow. Like, yes, they're putting their whole life out on the world. So, like, we kind of have like a front row seat to that. and we can
Mhm.
scrutinize every little thing, like, oh, you ate chips and ice cream all day, but you're like promoting bad diet. I don't know. Okay, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna try and use an example because people have like literally I've seen people literally pick apart someone's outfit because they're like, she's like trying to look skinny in that. And I'm like, come on. Okay.
Mhm.
Like, or like she looks fat in that. I've seen some pretty ridiculous things. And
Mhm.
if you are saying all these awful things, like how would I don't know if I would be able to cope. I'm not sure how many people would, to the mental
No.
state that would cause for the person who's receiving that. Because essentially you're bullying them, right? Like you
Mhm.
might not think that,
And
but you're essentially bullying and trolling them.
mhm.
And you're still generating content for them.
And they
So,
get so many of those messages a day.
yeah, like, honestly, they don't even read them half the time, I find, or they have, like, people that it goes through, and they don't even have their own personal Instagram, like, it's someone else running it. So, I just don't know how much your message is getting
Yeah.
across.
Yeah. I think a good rule of thumb here is if you wouldn't say it to somebody to their face
Mhm.
in person, it's not acceptable to say it to them online.
No.
And if you would say something really terrible to somebody in person, then I maybe think on that,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
Maybe think on that a little bit.
Uh-huh. Like, what
So,
what gain, what positive thing is this putting out in the world,
yeah.
Like, it's just kind of crazy. And I am gonna again throw the disclaimer out there. We're not talking about people who are like politicians and
No.
certain Supreme Court people
Nope.
making deathly decisions for the general population. We are not talking about those people, okay? Like
No.
just
We've got a lot to
yeah.
say about
Yeah,
them.
that's a whole different conversation. We're just talking about like, the average Joe influencers who put their life on social media. That's kind of who we're
Mhm.
focusing on because that's who I see the most like common hate for,
Yeah.
where they're just like, I don't know what people's deal with them are. They just don't like them. That's fine. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think there's and I don't know if this just gets lost in translation with this whole disinhibition effect, but there's a difference between not liking somebody and critiquing their work
hmm
and being like, you look fat in that outfit.
yeah,
Like, they can't change that. Like if you critique their work and give valid criticism, they can take that. But being
absolutely.
like, you look bad in this outfit, like, that just probably ruined their
Yeah, I
day.
know.
Like, that's awful to say.
Yeah. Like, why is your hair so like fluffy and frizzy? Like,
Yeah.
what are
It's
people
just
supposed to
like,
do with that? So yes, I agree with you on that one. Like, we're not saying that people should not debate things
mhm,
or, have lively conversations, but
mhm.
like do it in a constructive way. Don't just bitch about stuff,
Yeah.
especially stuff that's like maybe out of their control. Like, let's say they had a really bad breakout and you're going to tell them how like ugly they look. Who is that helping? Who is that helping?
They don't need to hear that. They don't
No. They're probably already
see.
emotionally struggling with that. So like there is no need to point it out further.
Mhm. Yes, maybe they did put themselves in the public eye, but they are doing their job.
Yeah,
Let's just look at their work and critique their work,
exactly.
not their appearances, because that's not fair.
Exactly. And I
So,
feel like fitness influencers are hit really hard on this. And
yes.
I didn't want to use like an example, but Cassie Ho is one just because she is such a mogul. And
Yes.
I don't know if she's like one of the original fitness influencers, but she is kind of up there with them. And she's not your typical like influencer who has a six pack. Like she has a
Mhm.
very normal person looking body. And
Yeah.
if you know anything about her story, she actually really did struggle with her weight as a
Mhm.
child, and then she actually had an eating disorder when she was a bikini model. Like she did bikini
Mhm.
shows, and it
Mhm.
took her years to heal her body and have her
Yeah.
mentally get to a place where she's happy with it. And she'll say it all the time, like in her videos, and just say, it's really hard when I see people commenting on my workout videos and saying, why is she a fitness influencer? She's so fat. Or she doesn't
Yeah.
have abs. She has no six pack.
Mhm.
And that, again, that is just like, that is not productive criticism, right? Like,
Mhm.
that is just being rude and mean. Like, you're going to walk up to people and just say, like, why are you teaching this fitness class? You're fat. Like,
Yeah.
what? I would,
You wouldn't say that to your yoga
oh my
teacher.
God, I would hope that they kick you
Could you
out of that
imagine?
class and you are never allowed back at that gym again if you ever said that to
Yeah.
them. So
But
I hate
also,
that
like,
people don't
who
think that that's okay to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, who also wrote the criteria of what you need to look like to be a fitness influencer or any
Exactly.
form of influencer? Like, it has nothing it's what they are passionate about and what they are choosing to do for their work.
Mhm.
Their appearance has nothing to do with it, no matter what type of influencer they
Yeah,
are.
and something I know we mentioned on some of our fitness episodes is we actually enjoy following people who look like us, like a
Exactly.
similar build, similar body type, lifestyle, like to me, that's the person I want to follow. I don't want to follow the one that's like stick thin with six pack ab because I'm never gonna get there. I'm not built that
I
way.
do I do
Um,
not look like the 2010s Victoria's Secret models.
no,
I just
no, that's okay
like,
though. We're
they're beautiful, but
unattainable.
we're not that tall. We're not that tall.
No, no,
No,
and I think we probably weigh more than them as well, and we're like half the height.
I think so. It's fine.
So the moral
Yeah.
of that is we need to be kinder. Okay, people, we need
Yeah.
to be kinder. And one thing I love is Reddit. And
Mhm.
Reddit is a wonderful place, but it can also be a very toxic place.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of our listeners found this show through Reddit. Hey, how are you? That was us advertising on there. Um,
Hey,
Thanks for coming over. And
we appreciate you.
and Reddit's an interesting place because I think there's just a very clear community that is on the major subreddits because you can tell
Mhm.
that it's like a younger demographic. They're very left-winged thinking people. And
Mhm.
I actually see a lot of like productive conversations on there. But then there are also subreddits where like they're literally dedicated to shitting on people. Like one
Yeah.
person, like an influencer, it's literally dedicated to that. And I don't really understand. I have questions. I have some questions about that
Mhm.
because like I understand if there's a subreddit and you're talking about like good and bad, but there
Mhm.
are some Reddits that you're only allowed to talk about the bad and you're not allowed to like downvote on that. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's just putting like a lot of negative things out in the world. And like again,
Yeah.
you're generating curiosity and interest for this person that people who stumble across these groups are now going to go seek out that person's content. So again,
Mhm.
you're just generating more revenue from them, like for them, sorry.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is like just unsubscribe, right? Like turn off their media. Don't
Yeah.
follow them. Because the more you say their name and talk about it, the internet doesn't care. They're
No.
going to keep thinking, wow, this person's really popular. We're going to keep pumping them out to other people, right?
Mhm.
Like, so it's a hard thing. Like, you might think it's not making a difference, but
Yeah, and it's like if you really don't like someone's content that much, why do you keep consuming it just to hate on it?
yeah, that's what I really don't
I
understand.
don't really understand it. It doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So, this was my question. Why do people waste their time hating on someone? Like, why do you follow someone you hate so much? Because
I
you're still contributing to their success. Just
I
FYI
have
from the business side of things, that's kind of what you're doing.
yeah, I have questions, but I have no answers.
Ah, yeah, I know.
Yeah, that happens.
Yes.
That happens.
Yes.
If anybody that listens like knows psychology or something, like hit us up by email because it's in the show notes because we would love to know.
Yeah. How many
Um
hate emails are we going to get for this episode? I bet at least 5. um, Thank you for going out
Um,
of your way to hate on us.
we
Thanks for
appreciate it. That
spreading our
means you
name. It's
listened.
Tea with Laura and Rachel.
That means you listened.
Thanks for your download. Um,
Oh, we're actually just drinking tea, guys. There's no wine
there
involved in
is no
this.
wine.
This is right before a long weekend, so maybe we're just like already in vacation, like
Not gonna lie, it's
mode.
true. Um,
Yeah,
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 yeah. Okay, so let's steer the conversation back a little bit. I want to talk about something that terrifies me as a future parent. Um, we didn't grow up
yes.
with, well, we had computers, but the internet was not what it is today, not even close.
Mhm.
I used the internet to play my Magic School Bus game and my Arthur game and my Little Pony game as well.
Did you have the one that was like, it was like some like language game? It was like learning grammar or something, and it was a garbage can?
I don't
Did you have
I
that
don't
one?
remember that one, but I did have the Crayola art room. That was fun.
Okay.
And a couple math games and spelling games as well. The circus game, remember the math circus.
Nice. Yeah, this one, if you answered the grammar question correctly, it would feed the garbage can and it would like do this like chomp chomp movement, like the Cookie Monster, and be like, love when you, I don't know.
I was just gonna
Not
say that
that.
sounded really sexual for a second. I was just like, I love when you spell correctly, baby.
Who knows? I mean, it was a game from the 90s, so maybe there were some weird sexual undertones. People weren't thinking about that
You
then.
know what? 90s games underrated. Still fun
They
today. I
were.
wish more computers supported them because I definitely still have one CD-ROM from
Yes.
from the early 2000s. It was the best game ever. It was a horse eventing game,
Oh my
and
god, I love that.
I bought it at a hardware store. And
I think I had a similar game to that actually, but I played it on PS2.
nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Maybe it was a later
yes.
iteration. All right, but back
Anyway,
on
sorry,
topic.
talking
Sorry.
about children. We didn't have our own cell phones and computers back in the day. Our parents knew when we were online because you'd pick up the phone and they'd break the internet connection. And
Mhm.
kids today, I saw a stat that the average age was a child will have their first cell phone by 10 years old, and they'll have their
Mhm.
first social media account by 11.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling to fathom that. Like I know kids who have cell phones and Instagrams and that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, wow, like you like what are you consuming? What are you
I
consuming? And I think it must be terrifying as a parent. And I know you can put like restrictions and that kind of stuff on there, but there's so many things out there that know how to get around and get to children,
There's
and
so many
so
loopholes.
many loopholes. And I worry, like, how do parents know if their child is being bullied, or in turn, how do you know if your child is a bully?
See that? Like the both parts of that question just like terrify me
Yeah, yeah. And
because
how do you
you don't
manage this? Like,
know.
I know nothing about kids, so like I don't know
Mhm.
if cell phones, like if you have the parental controls on them, are they sending you reports on like what your child is seeing? Like I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe someone tell me if that is actually a thing. I'm kind of curious, because if it's not, like, how do you know what your child is looking at and
Well, I
who
mean,
they're
what also
talking to,
freaks
right? It's scary on so
yeah.
many levels. We're just focusing on the bullying and trolling part.
Don't even get me started on, like, when Omegle was a thing.
Ah, yeah, it's
Like,
still a thing.
that it is, but just, like, it was so I think that was, like, more becoming a thing when I was, like, a teenager,
Yeah,
like, 15,
yeah,
and you would go to I think I went on it once with somebody, and I was like, "This is weird.
yeah. I
I don't like this."
remember. I think slumber party, friend's house. You're like, oh, let's go on this site. And for people who are younger and don't know what Omegle is, essentially,
Don't look it up.
yeah, don't look it up. It's weird.
Don't look
It's
it up.
weird.
It's weird. It's a
So
weird
essentially,
place.
you have your web camera on, and someone else has their camera on, and you can flip to different chat rooms, and it just matches you with a person, and you don't know
No
what you're.
criteria, by the
No
way.
criteria. No criteria. And you can chat to these people, and they can talk to you. You can see them. It's cringe people. I was kind of hoping that wasn't a thing, but it's still a thing.
Yeah, I recall, like, the one time I participated in it, it was, like, 2:30 PM at my friend's house in their family computer room, and I was like, "What? What?
What?
What are we doing
That's
here?"
questionable.
But, yeah, like, the one thing that kinda freaks me out, because when they're little kids, like, elementary school and stuff, I think you can, as a parent, I mean, I don't know anything about kids, I don't have any, but I feel like you could exert, like, a little bit more oversight over
Mhm.
it, like, they can use your iPad or they can use your phone, but
Yeah.
you're kind of, it's like, the Netflix kids section, whatever.
Mhm.
But what worries me is when they turn, like, 14 and, mom and dad isn't cool anymore
Yeah.
and they want their privacy, and that's also especially, I mean, I was a teenage girl. I'm sorry, I don't know as much about teenage boys, but being a 13-year-old girl is, like, the worst time for bullying
Mhm.
because I just
Kids
people can be
suck.
really
Kids
cruel.
suck.
Kids suck. Kids suck. I can only speak from the teenage girl perspective, but I think in general, kids are assholes
Yeah.
sometimes. But that's what I worry about is I remember, you know, there was some stuff going on when I was in, like, 8th or ninth grade, and it was all, like, either done in person, some people, but also, like, done online and stuff, and, like, people, like, found out about the cyberbullying stuff that was happening in, like, April
Mhm.
of the school year, but it started in September,
Right.
like, it was just happening, and then before the teachers got involved, a whole year had passed because it can be so hidden, and I think too, especially now that kids have throwaway Instagram accounts.
Right, yes.
There's nothing stopping a bully from following your child and then just
Targeting them.
saying awful things.
Yeah.
Or I your kid doing that.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, little Jimmy is just an angel, right? He couldn't be a bully, but let alone he's bullying, like, 5 kids online, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, I it's interesting because even, like, now I have a difficult time going to that place of being like, if I had a child, they could be a bully.
Mhm.
So I can't imagine how that feels when you actually are a parent and you're faced with that reality.
Yeah, exactly, and this is where I kinda wonder as millennials have children, if there's going to be a shift in how young kids are when they get a cell phone or are allowed to have a social media account. I don't know. I think I'm just wishful thinking here of the good old days, before all
When
of
would
this stuff.
you
When would I
when would you allow that to happen?
see, okay, and I'll be transparent here. I got my first cell phone in grade 8. Only
Okay.
one of my friends had a cell phone, but these were
It
flip
was a flip
phones.
phone?
If we went on the internet, we were crucified, in
It
charges.
costs, like, $20 a
Yeah, it was
minute.
like $50 if you opened it by accident, and there was
Mhm.
no social media, right? Like, this is before Facebook, this is before Instagram, everything, we had MySpace, but, like, I don't like, we had MySpace, but, like, we were almost, like, a little young for it,
Mhm.
um, so, at 14, I think you could text, but texting really wasn't a thing yet.
It took a really long
It took, yeah,
time.
T9 texting, and we were all new at it. So, cell phones weren't what they are today. And
Mhm.
really, it wasn't until I was in university. And even
Mhm.
then, like, our smartphones were pretty fucking dumb to what phones can do today. And that
Mhm.
was when I was able to have, like, social media, and, like, I had Facebook through high school, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
that was a whole problem on its own because now we're, like, giving free reign to children on, like, talking online and showing
And a
pictures.
bunch of random creeps could try to add them as friends.
Yeah, exactly. So I felt, like, very experimental when we were growing up as kids,
Mhm.
and now children today, like, they're coming into an established infrastructure, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like there's gonna be so much peer pressure because a lot of my friends, they didn't have cell phones until, like, later in high school. and that was normal,
Mhm.
right? It was normal that you didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Where now it's just like you're in grade 3 or 4 and it's normal to have a cell phone. Like, it would be weird if you didn't.
Kids are handed cell phones by the time they're 5 years old to entertain them.
Yeah, yeah, and I just, I'm not against when you see the kid with the iPad and they're sitting in the stroller while mom is grocery shopping. I'm not against that. Like, whatever keeps your kid sane, where you try and get some errands done, that's fine, but that's also, like, controlled viewing, and you know what
Yeah.
they're viewing, and I agree with you, when mom and dad aren't cool anymore and you have a teenager and they want privacy, right? And I'm
Yeah.
for people, like children having their own privacy, right? Like, my parents gave me my space and my privacy when I was growing up,
Mhm.
and I felt like I didn't have to hide things from them, right? Because they weren't
Yeah.
trying to get into my business. So, yeah, that is just so, I don't even know. I honestly don't have an answer of when I would give my kid a phone.
Yeah, because it's tricky too because, you could discuss with your child just to make sure that they're not being, like, cyberbullied or
Mhm.
something, like, maybe you follow them
Yeah, like, you
on
kinda have
Instagram
to
or something.
you have to look for the signs, right? And
But the problem is Instagram, I'm just using Instagram as an example, has the option to block specific people from seeing your stuff.
yeah.
So you could be following your kid, but maybe they're 16 and they want to go have fun at a party, so they don't want you to see that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Then you can't see anything. So it's like, I don't know.
It's a hard question, and I think,
I
like,
don't.
honestly, I think, like, fundamentally from the home, it's all about having that open communication. It's about teaching your child the right
Mhm.
and wrongs of, uh, relationships with other people, respect for other people, and how to use the internet safely. Like, I think
Mhm.
that's probably the best thing you can do as a parent is give them the tools to
Mhm.
make good judgment calls, right? And recognize
Yes.
signs when they're being bullied, but also recognize the signs that they are not being the bully.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And, maybe we'll revisit this when we're parents one day and then we'll maybe know more.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah, I
you
feel
know?
like this because it's gonna change so much between now and when we have that problem.
Hmm.
There's a few years there. Um
Yeah, really, I'm just hoping that by the time our peers become parents, we're just like throwing the cell phones out the window and making our kids watch The Lion King.
Yeah, VHS all the way,
But
guys.
yeah, I'm just like, guys, we're going back in time. Screw the technology.
The Renaissance is
going back to
back.
going back to 1995. Um, But yeah, like I just have like a couple little, I don't know, tips, whatever, for what you can do if you're a target of just somebody kind of hiding behind a keyboard and coming at you pretty hard. One of them is I'm kind of using like YouTube and Instagram and stuff here, but turn off your comments. So just don't give people the option to write mean things to you. I know a lot of influencers and celebrities and such do that. Another one is don't engage with the trolls because that's just going to fuel their fire. And remember that it says more about them than it does about you. And another one too is I maybe you can speak with me on this one, but if you know that like you need to make a post about something, if it's like content related or whatever, but you're kind of doing it in a space where you might get some fire at you,
Mhm.
just prepare yourself in advance
Yep.
that that's a possibility. And then when it does happen, you can be like, all right, yep, I knew this was going to happen, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And just want to say again, like, it's one thing when it's a lively debate, right? Like, we need to be having healthy conversations that have different points of view. This is how we grow and progress as society. What you shouldn't go out and do is have the attention of being a jerk.
Yes,
And I feel like what you were saying with, the don't react and don't respond. A lot of the trolls, specifically online, they want your reaction, right?
exactly. That's
Like,
why
that's what
they
they're
do it.
baiting you. That's what they're doing. They're just like, "Okay, I'm gonna keep poking and poking until they
Hmm.
snap at me, and then that's, like, my
Hmm.
reward." and I can
Mm-hmm.
continue doing what I want to do. So let's do the flip side of, I know we were talking about, if there's someone you don't like, don't promote them, good, like positive or negative feedback. And if you are someone who is getting harassed, don't provoke them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just, I know it's hard to ignore sometimes, and that's just what you need to do, because if you never give them a reaction, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to get bored with you.
Exactly. A little caveat needs to be added here too, especially if like it's consistently coming at you, especially even if it's just like from one person. If you have a response that you want to put out there that's well thought out and such, like you've I don't I don't know if well thought out is the word, but like you're not just reacting in the heat of the moment. If you have something that you want to say back, you press send and they are going to retaliate against you most likely. Don't answer again. Just say what you need to say and just leave it at that.
Yeah, like,
Does that make sense?
well, kind of what you're saying is, like, if you are going to respond, make sure it's well thought out and not just a rash message,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's
It's
when, like,
like,
tempers keep building and building, and now you're having a yelling match.
mm-hmm.
That's not even productive, right? Like, it's one thing to have a productive conversation, but if you're just yelling at each other, it'd be like the same
Yeah,
thing if you're sitting in a room with a person, you're just yelling at each other, but you're not even yelling at each other about anything. Yeah.
exactly. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So, my last thing to say is, yes, we use technology to communicate, but it's not a license to be an asshole.
No, no, it is not. I'm still just thinking about how that article you talked about was saying, well, I don't have their address, so I can only do it this way.
I just can't get
I'm
over
just
the subtitle. Until we can beam around, we have no choice. Like, we have to be
until
assholes
I
this way behind a keyboard.
until I until I can apparate into your bedroom and tell you you suck. I have to do this.
Just, there's no need to be mean, people, okay? Be kind to each other. We are going through so much
Mhm.
fucking shit in the world as a
Yes.
collective right now. We don't need to deal with more negative shit. All right?
No.
Just put it to the side. All right, people?
Yeah,
All right. I think that's all from us today.
I think so. I think so. We really ran the gamut there. Touched on a lot of things. So, um, if you enjoyed this episode, and let us know. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. It really helps out the show when you guys do that, so we would very much appreciate it. And if you want to chat with us a bit about what we talked about today or in any of our prior episodes, or if you have any ideas of what you would like to hear from us moving forward, you can email us. It's at teawithlaurarachele@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.
And live like tea.
Live like tea.